It's great to be here. I have been directing the Health Division, Health and Safety Division here at NEA for 14 years. And I'll highlight a few of the history of NEA's involvement around this issue. And then Rocio will pick up on some current and projected work we're doing around bullying particularly. I don't know if you know, but I follow the safety statistics rather carefully. And we have 30,000 Americans who are killed every year by guns. We have 3,000 Americans who are children, birth to 18, who are killed by guns in America every year. 3,000. We have, on average, 23 children killed by guns in schools in America. So 3,000 in their neighborhoods almost, and 23 on school property. That has to stop. Unfortunately, one of my duties at NEA is responding to each time there is a crisis, and we, on average, are responding, meaning providing resources and lesson plans to help schools twice every month. The disaster that occurred several months ago with a number of LGBT students who killed themselves in a period of about 2 weeks was unprecedented, but my personal feeling is that that probably isn't unprecedented. What was unprecedented was that it got attention and that it got named for what it was. But I think we've been losing these kids for many, many years. And finally, the public has the attention to the issue that some of us have known that's been going on for a long time. NEA, as I mentioned, has been working on this issue for some 154 years. NEA was ahead of the civil rights movement around many of the issues for women, many of the issues for minorities, and certainly the issue on LGBT issues as well. The third point here on the slides, I don't know if you have thought about this, but it wasn't until 1993 that homosexuality was removed from the DSM code. And I'm a psychologist by background. That's the code that if you go to see a therapist, they put in your name so you get insurance coverage. So the first 20-some years of my life, I was mentally ill. And many of my friends would say I still am, but I don't think now it's because I'm gay. I think it's just, I am. In 1983, NEA established its GLBT caucus, and that was a caucus that felt like NEA wasn't getting on board fast enough to move GLBT issues ahead. And if you were to interview any of the 10,000 voting delegates who come to our representative assembly each year, they would say this caucus has by far been the most powerful caucus. It's about 700 persons strong, and it has pushed NEA 83, 84, 85, 86, it pushed every year to ensure that NEA was pushing these issues out in front. And I will say that we have all 50 states represented, and Mississippi and some of the southern states would vote against it, but each year, probably 90% of the movement from this caucus to move these issues forward were passed because of the work of this caucus. In 1996, some of you know that the Supreme Court took on a Colorado case, and the Colorado case was that in Colorado, they had a law that allowed the state to discriminate against GLBT citizens as well as students in school. And it wasn't until 1996 that law was struck down. In 2001, NEA decided to stop the GLBT caucus's attack every year at the convention and actually created a task force that worked for a year. So in 2001, that task force worked from 2001 to 2002. As a result, we now have official representation on the NEA Board of Directors. We have official GLBT representation on the NEA Executive Committee meetings. And a lot of the work that was done through the caucus at the conventions is now being done through the mainstream line of work, day to day, week to week, month to month. I'll just mention to end, prior to this job, I worked in Fairfax County, and I directed the health ed, sex ed program from 1989 to 1996. In that family life work, our charge was to rewrite all the sex ed curricula for grades K through 12. And we had, until '89, Virginia did not allow you to talk about homosexuality, masturbation, contraception, and there's a fourth no. In 1989, the Virginia Department of Education rewrote that law allowing you to teach, in fact, requiring you to teach about those topics. Each of the 126 school districts could choose how much they wanted to teach about it. I was put in charge of writing the curricula that dealt into how much we would teach about that. We had major struggles, and because this was actually the year before GLSEN was even formed, we were dealing with all these issues. The far right flew in people from California, from Colorado, from Washington State. Certainly Virginia was already a hotbed of conservatism, so they came up. The far right spent over $100,000 trying to prevent Fairfax County Public Schools in Virginia from passing progressive curricula that would set a model for what schools should be doing across the nation. It was a 6-year fight. I chaired a committee of 34 parents, 10 of whom were far right, appointed by the far right members of the school, 2 far right members of the school board. I had to wear a bulletproof vest to many of these meetings, certainly to the school board meetings. We had to have a police present, but we fought the good fight from 1989 to 1996, and as a result, had major shifts and changes in sex ed curricula, grades 3 through 12, including a required movie for all 9th graders to see called What If I'm Gay, that was approved in 1991, which meant 15,000 9th graders saw this film every year. Parents could opt out of it, but only about 2.5% of parents opted their child out of that curriculum. So I'll just stop there, turn it over to Rocio, who will be talking about our new launch from her department of our new anti-bullying campaign.